Well, I should have brought my damn laptop up, but I probably could have gotten on my old one and I could checked out the chat and stuff. So you'll have to.
Yeah.
I don't actually I don't. I don't know if I'll see it or not, but.
Yeah, I have the chat. I have the chat up. We are live.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what
we'll
happens
wait till
here.
7 so you pops in. At least we're up and running and working.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Perfect.
Good. Yeah, I should have grabbed my old laptop. I still sound okay?
Oh yeah, you sound perfect.
Okay, good.
So what's the, well, we could talk about this in the broadcast. I don't want to bring it up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure people will probably start to see the notification pop up, and then people will start to hop in, I'm sure.
Yeah, we got 2 viewers now.
Well, one of them, if you see Gary Page, that's my dad.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to enter a chat here.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to this.
Yeah, that's what I should have done. I should have grabbed another laptop, and I could have monitored the chat a little bit too.
Try to get a shot of my shelves here. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
All right, we got 3 viewers. All right.
All right. Good. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mash and Drum. This is my first ever live stream. Glad to do it with Scott from my bourbon journey. He's decided to join me. We could talk a little bit about, getting our new channel started and kind of what prompted us to do it. We're gonna be drinking a few bottled bonds today that we're big fans of. So hey, Scott, want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah. Hey guys, how you doing? Hey Jason, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm glad you started a channel. I'll be looking forward to watching more videos and kind of chatting a little bit tonight, see what's new, and yeah, kind of go from there.
Yeah. I definitely have a lot of plans for the channel. Trying to get some newer stuff. I figured with my with starting a new channel, I wanted to kind of do some more newer bourbons and whiskeys rather than kind of go back to the old ones, just to get some more interest in it. I did kind of think about doing kind of the first one that got me into bourbon, which was Wild Turkey 101. But I wanted to start, I think, doing some newer whiskeys. So that's why I started with the newer Elijah Craig Barrel Proof that I found, which I thought was an interesting one to do. It was also one of my favorite bourbons in the world. I love that stuff.
Yeah, so that was pretty awesome that you came across that. So were you able to get that like in a store at retail?
Yeah. I've kind of forged some really good relationships with some of the liquor stores here in Ohio. The thing about Ohio that's challenging for anyone else out there watching that's in Ohio is it's state controlled. So yeah. So the good thing is that you get really good prices. Most stuff that comes in is all MSRP, so you'll only pay $50 for an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. But the problem is that usually you get stuff 1 month to 2 months after it comes out. So that's kind of the caveat, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've heard about like Ohio is that there's some pluses and some minuses that that there's stuff that's allocated there for a particular price, and they're not going to hike the prices up into like borderline secondary prices. But then the issue is the availability. Can you get it? Now, with that being said, do you guys have like a lot of lotteries, or how does that work when you get like a E.H. Taylor barrel proof? Is that something that would always be at retail and not like in a lottery or a raffle or something like that?
E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof comes into the state, I believe, 2 or 3 times a month. It's pretty rare. But that's one of those that just show up. You have to be lucky to get it. Okay. The ones that they do lotteries for are of course, the BTAC collection, and also the what's the second one that they do? Oh, and the Pappy Van Winkle. But
Yeah. Okay.
that's that's an interesting one. The way they do it here, you basically go buy a ticket. You go to the liquor store, get it validated, then you got to punch it in a computer, and then you wait for your name to be called down the line. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's really controlled. So I mean, it's all regulated, and there's really no messing around with that system at all. Then really.
No, there's not. It's it's
Yeah.
tough. But luckily Ohio's kind of central to a lot of other states. So I can go to Indiana. It's only about 3 hours from here. Kentucky's 3 hours from here. I can go to Michigan, which is about 2.5 hours, and have a completely different selection. So I'll do that a lot to find some bottles.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. I mean, being like in that general area, I mean, you're a pretty short car ride away from being able to get to a lot of areas, quickly to get some different things or see some other stuff or, just go around and do some hunting or whatever. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's great. With that said, I think I'm going to pour some lovely Henry
I'm ahead of you.
with you, which
All
is
right, so you've got I know we were chatting before, so my bottle is and I'd be interested to know if anybody in the chat knows this, but so my McKenna is barreled on 81605, and mine is a screw top. Now Jason's is, I thought you said, did you say like 2 years newer?
mine is
And
mine is from April 7th of 2008, and as you can see, it's got a cork.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, interesting. So I guess I'd be interested to know if anybody in the chat knows, when or why they switched from, screw top to corks. I didn't even realize that they did that. I thought it was all screw tops. Kind of interesting. Well,
Yeah.
whatever. Really, all that matters is what's in the bottle. That's the main thing. So,
Yeah. Cheers.
cheers to you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, that is just, it's
Yeah.
so good. I mean, $30, bottled and
Yep.
bond, 100 proof.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
love this stuff.
10 years old. I mean, as you guys can probably see, I mean, the color on that's ridiculous.
I know, it's just ridiculous.
And by us, I would say once it won the San Francisco I don't know, spirits competition or whatever it was, this stuff flew off the shelves, and once in a while you see it pop back up. It's slowly but surely starting to kind of build back up a little bit, which is kind of nice because I mean nowadays, as we all know, I mean everybody wants there to be age statements, and you want old whiskey, this and that, but McKenna kind of hits all those points. Now you have to like, to me, you have to like something that's a little bit on the oaky and drier side from a bourbon standpoint in order to enjoy that. But I mean, if you can kind of get past just a little bit of that, it's a fantastic bourbon. I mean, it should be more than $30.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. It's just delicious.
Yeah.
In Ohio here, I used to be able to find this anywhere I went into. Luckily, Henry McKenna was one of the first whiskeys that I noticed that I really loved that I can get anytime I wanted. As soon as it won the San Francisco Spirits Awards, now as soon as it comes in, it's off the shelf.
Yeah. I saw some the other day, and I knew I should have just pulled the trigger. I think I can still go and get it. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those ones that you got so used to it just always being on the shelf that you knew you didn't have to rush out and get it. You could go and pick it up anytime, and I kind of still think about it like that. But I don't know, I'm think I might have to go back. This is the last one I've got of this. So, but yeah, I mean for $30, you cannot beat this stuff at all. So
Yeah. So actually, a question I want to ask you,
mhm.
and kind of talking and getting to know you as we've kind of gone through this is, so what was the bottle that did it for you that kind of got you hooked?
It was really strange, and I don't know if my dad's on here or not, but uh, there was one night we were out, and he was drinking, I believe it was Woodford Double Oak Neat, and at the time, this is maybe going back, I think a few years ago, and I wasn't totally into it. I mean, I like whiskey and had Jack, all that normal stuff that everybody has kind of growing up. But I said, hey, let me have a little taste of that and just kind of see what it was. And I had a little taste of it, and I think from about that moment on, things just clicked and changed for me. I mean, I really enjoyed the flavor of it. I enjoyed the fact that I didn't have to gulp it down like a a cocktail or something like that. And it was different because in our areas or our area, I mean, old fashions. I mean, people drink these things like they're going out of style.
Yeah,
And I was looking for something a little bit different that I didn't have to just continue to just drink one after another. Something I could take my time with. And he's like, well, here you go. Have a little bit of this. I'll sip on this thing for maybe all night long. And I'm like, well, geez, let me give that a shot. And it was the Woodford Double Oaked, and that's kind of what got me into it. The funny part is the regular Woodford, I'm not really a huge fan of. I
I
For whatever reason,
that's funny.
you know,
I completely agree. I was not crazy about the regular Woodford when I first had it. I thought it was, and just like you, I had the double oaked first.
yeah,
Woodford is, it's a great bourbon, but I think it's designed to be not really in one direction or the other in
yeah,
flavor profile, just very kind of even keeled.
yeah,
Um, so the double oak gave it that extra oomph that I was looking
yep.
for, which was great.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I mean, at the time when I had it, I didn't really have much to compare it to. But now going back and having the double oak versus the regular, I mean, it's night and day. I mean, you can't even compare the two, and you may not even know that they were both Woodford products. I mean, based on the flavor profile. So, but yeah, that's kind of what did it for me. So, what uh, what was it that got you kind of into the whole bourbon craze?
Um, I think it was probably. I think I mentioned before it was Wild Turkey 101. But so in college I had it, and then I was drinking it neat. Um, I'm sorry, I was drinking it mixed with things like soda and Coke. And then someone's like, "Hey, you ever try that stuff neat?" And then I had it neat, and it completely changed my world.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll do it. I mean, there's just something about it, that just kind of pulls you in. If you already, maybe kind of like pre-like that profile, then it's one of those things where it's super um, just enjoyable. You don't have to. You can sit down with some friends, like we're doing. You could have a nice little pour. You could have it for a couple of hours. You're
Yeah,
not having to rush through this stuff. It kind of brings on like conversation and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can see like what you and I are doing. We could probably talk for hours about all of this stuff, you
yeah.
know. So that's the one thing that really kind of kept me, into the whole thing, was seeing how everybody else really enjoyed it the same way that I kind of do now. So
So Scott, I'm actually I just entered the chat to see. So I want to call
yeah,
out some names here that are watching.
yeah, yeah.
Whiskey Throttle's watching. Um,
Daniel,
yeah, welcome, buddy. Pressman is watching. We have Gary Page, Dwayne
Dad,
Lodge,
Dwayne.
and that's what they want you to talk into the chat and so they can say hi to you.
Oh, yeah, I don't have I'm doing it from my phone, so I don't even have the chat. I could probably go get another cell phone and do it, but
Oh yeah, he said I think your dad is here. Gary Page, is that him?
yep, yep, that's my dad. So he probably heard the little story that I just told about him. So,
So I got a couple questions here.
yeah.
So Pressman asked me, C Stag Junior himself just grabbed one, batch 10. Um, yeah, Pressman, I Stag Junior was one of the ones I can't get here in Ohio. I had to go outside to grab that. I actually picked it up in California and brought it back with me to Ohio. So I love Stag Junior.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. I mean, I'm having a real hard time right now, kind of picking through either Stag Junior, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and also the Bookers, one of the newer
Yeah.
Bookers that are coming out. Either of those three. I mean, you give me any of those
Yeah.
days of the week,
Yeah.
I'm a happy guy.
I'm thinking about getting an ECBP tattoo on my shoulder. If that's okay, how much I love it.
Now
It's
that
probably
is
it's
bourbon
probably
dedication.
for me, I don't want to say hands down, but for me, it's probably my favorite pour. I mean, I love the stuff for 65 bucks.
Mhm.
I mean, you're getting a 12-year-old bourbon, a really nice proof. I mean, it's not unlike, Stag Junior. Again, those are more high proof, bourbons, all of that. But for me, there's just something about the Elijah Craig barrel proof that just hits like every single thing for me that I
Yeah,
can't resist the
I
stuff.
totally agree.
So yeah.
So actually, Whiskey Throttle, gonna call him out. He answered your question about the screw tops and the corks. He basically said because
Oh,
screw tops are cheaper, that's why they changed.
oh, yeah. But so I guess my question would be, if the screw top is cheaper, then how come the newer ones are now cork?
Yeah, yeah,
You
true.
know. So I mean, usually you don't see. I mean, this may be the first one that I know of that I've seen um, something go from a screw top to a cork. I mean, I've seen it the other way around, but I don't think I've ever seen a screw top go to a cork before. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well,
Daniel, do some more research, buddy.
we got a new guy. Whiskey Quest just joined. So what's up? What's
Oh,
up, man? How are you doing? Um, so let's see. Pressman mentioned Buffalo Trace was his first bourbon, and I always think that is kind of a tried and true bourbon
yep.
to always go to. That's one of the first ones I'll give to people if they're just getting into bourbon. You
Hmm.
know, a little bit, maybe a couple ice cubes to start out, and once that stuff gets watered down, it's just like drinking candy. It's delicious.
Yeah, it really is. And for us in my area, it's nearly impossible to find. It's generally not on the shelves. Um, which is unfortunate because I mean it's a great bottle for 25 bucks or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
And I mean, it seems like for whatever reason, you know, the Buffalo Trace, Elijah Craig, a lot of their stuff, maybe by me, but I mean, it's just really starting to get much more difficult to even find this stuff. I don't know what's going on, or if it's just an allocation thing or what, but
yeah,
I wish we could find it.
yeah. Um, let's see. So Whiskey Throttle also added real cork is hard on the environment and twist caps are much more reliable, which I would probably agree with that. Because some
Yeah,
corks, I've had some bourbons where the corks would break in there, which can be frustrating.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the whole cork thing, as we all know, I mean, it kind of becomes a bit of a snobby thing a little bit. I mean, if
yeah,
you think about it, I mean, really the best thing you could have would be a screw top. You pour it, you twist it back on, it's nice and tight, you're good to go. How many people do you see with problems with corks breaking or, whatever it may be? I mean, it's, whatever. With that being said, I still love a good cork.
yeah. Pressman has a Booker's 2017-04 open.
Hmm.
2017-04. Pressman, is that the sip a while? Trying to think. I have a bunch of Bookers up there. That might be the sip a while. I'm not sure. I think it is.
Yeah,
That
you
is one of
can't you
my
can't go
favorite.
wrong. You cannot go wrong with Booker's. I mean, it's like I mean, I don't think I've really ever had, for the most part, a bad one. I mean, they're hot, of course, but I mean, you got to know what you're getting yourself into before you even have it. But
Yeah,
it's another one of those things. It's full of flavor. It's fantastic. I wish
yeah,
it wasn't 75 bucks, but
yeah. I'm looking at the chat.
what are you paying for Booker's by you?
About $68 before tax.
Okay. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. About the same here.
yeah. So yeah, Pressman said that's the sip a while. That is. I don't know if you guys saw my Booker's review of the backyard barbecue batch. Um, that one, I love that batch that just came out. But the sip a while before that one was one of my favorites. That is such a good. It was such a good bottle. It had a deep cherry flavor to me, and I just loved it. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, it's just God, I've got two or three of them. One open and a couple older ones. I think from either 15 or 16 that I just have been sitting there. But it is. I mean, it is such a fantastic pour. And again, it's one of those ones. If you like in your videos when you always give yourself a nice pour, you
Yes,
know,
right.
you give yourself a nice pour of that, you better have a little bit of time, or you're gonna need some time to sit
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and sip on that bad boy.
that's my trademark. I always have to give myself a good pour.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
So what other? Well, actually, a question I think that we got earlier in the chat is what kind of made us start our whiskey channels. So I'll let you go first.
Um, so for me, I guess originally, mine was going to be just a video diary. Mine was kind of, I was getting into whiskey. I liked it. And I really thought, well, hey, YouTube is a place where if nothing else, I can taste it, kind of do a little bit of a self-review type of deal. And and then kind of chronicle that. So I always had something I could go back to. That was the only reason I ever started a channel, was basically just to have somewhere to store the videos, was essentially what it was. And then once the bug kind of took over, um, I liked the idea of being able to, now I can maybe let people know, hey, here's what I'm tasting. Do I like it? Do I not? And I didn't know if anybody would really care or not. Um, and I guess I don't want to say I didn't care, but I mean, I like the idea of being able to share something that I had a passion for, that maybe somebody else would watch the video and say, okay, well, geez, I've been looking for this, or what, had some questions about it. Thanks for the information. And really, once I did the first one, similar to you, you got a lot of like really good, early positive feedback, which was nice. And it kind of just spawn from there. And it's really kind of been, you know, quote unquote, my bourbon journey. And
Yeah,
that's really what it's become. I mean, it's a journey that I've, been on, and will probably until the day I die. I absolutely love the stuff. So
yeah. I think for me, once I got really into bourbon, I became a collector before I was kind of doing reviews on it. I became a real, I guess, for the lack of a better term, a real whiskey nerd. I was doing
yeah.
tons of research on how it was made, and the different mash bills and yeast strains, and I really got into it.
Hmm.
And then once I started buying more bottles, I started picking up the different subtleties and what I was drinking, and whether it be with ice, whether it be with no ice, whether it be just with some drops of water. I mean, I just found it so fascinating how much bourbon can hold up to whatever you throw at it, and I just thought that was amazing. It just fascinated me. And then once I started learning more about different types, the wheaters, the regular bourbons, malt whiskeys, and then even dabbling into Scotch, it's just I was talking to my friends about it, and they were learning just from me, kind of talking to them. And they said, "Hey, you should do a YouTube channel," and here I am.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I mean, that bug gets a hold of you, and for me, I'm a big history guy, from the standpoint of just just history in general. But that was one of the things I really latched onto, was the stories, or even more so than just stories, the authentic stories. I appreciate a really good kind of backstory or back history of the brands. I mean, these things are going back 150, 200 years in some cases, and just understanding and knowing a little bit of kind of what happened back then was super fascinating. And that's one of the things that's probably kept me really wanting to just learn more and understand more, just like kind of you. I mean, you just kind of geek out about the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
seriously, yeah.
my wife, I mean, she's like, God, I hope bourbon goes away. I mean, it's like, that's all you talk about or whatever. So it's hard, because I get super passionate about things, and you just kind of dive into the stuff. So I feel the same way you do.
Yeah, I put out a question in the chat to see for the viewers what bottles got them into bourbon. I'm curious, kind of what were the ones that kind of started that itch for them. Whiskey Throttle said he's too old to remember.
Daniel, he's not much older. He's not much older than I am. I'll tell you that. So he's not that old.
It doesn't matter, Whiskey Throttle. It's what you're drinking now.
No,
It doesn't
no,
matter. It's all
you
good.
got it. And Jason, I don't know. So like, if you ever check out or see some of Daniel's like live streams or whatever, um, he's got maybe one of the most impressive whiskey collections you'll see. I mean, I think there's nothing that he doesn't have. I mean, it is super fantastic. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. So Gary's asking, do you guys drink from a glass other than a Glencairn? Personally, I do. When I do reviews, for me, and this is just subjective for me, I feel like I get a better nose notes on a Glencairn than I do on. I have some New Orleans glasses. I have a couple of the Tribeca glasses, which are the kind of the taller tulip-looking glasses.
mhm.
But for me, nosing, I get better notes off of a Glencairn than any of those other glasses. So that's why I always use them in my reviews.
Yeah, so I would agree. I mean, I think it's a great nosing glass. I mean, it's something that obviously concentrates the aroma of whatever it is. It really helps you to concentrate and kind of get your nose in there, pick up those different notes. But yeah, like a lot of times when I'm just at home, like just drinking, there's the Canadian whiskey glass, or that they classify as the Canadian whiskey glass, that I drink out of, more. It's got a really nice kind of curvy shape to it. If I'm sure everybody probably knows what I'm talking about, but it's just much more enjoyable. It's got good weight. It's a nice feeling glass. There is one glass I'm really excited to get. I haven't yet, but I saw it the other day. Actually, seen it a while ago, but it's from Denver and Liley. Have you ever seen any of the stuff that they do? It's
No,
all hand blown.
I have no, no.
They're a bit pricey, but if anybody goes and checks out, it's Denver and Liley. I think it's Liely. But they've got some fantastic looking glasses, and they just released not long ago a glass that they actually classify as their bourbon glass. We call it what you want, but they call it their bourbon glass, and it's another one it looks like a really nice glass to just drink out of.
Oh, that's cool. I gotta check
Yeah,
that. Let's see. It's all right. We're 25 minutes in about. I think it's time for a new pour. So
yeah.
I'm going to go in with, and let me know if anyone in the chat, if any of you guys have had this bottle. This is the Early Times Bottled in Bond. It's a Brown-Forman product. I do love it. So this is the same mash bill as they used in the infamous King of Kentucky that they just released not too long ago. Same mash bill. It's 100 proof, bottled in bond. It's just obviously the King of Kentucky was aged way longer, but I think this is a really good buy. It's by me, it's only $22. So I'm gonna pour a
Yeah,
little bit of this.
yeah, and that one's about $400 less than the King of Kentucky, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I haven't heard too many good things about the King of Kentucky.
Yeah, so I haven't heard a ton about it, but that's another thing that we can probably go on and on about, is that retail versus secondary, and just some of the more you know retail bourbons that are just already expensive, because I think that I want to say at retail, wasn't it a couple $100 at least?
It was $200. I saw it on the secondary for $800. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. I mean, it's just crazy how that whole world has just taken off. I mean, it's ridiculous. So,
Whiskey Throttle is asking me to drink from the bottle. So,
all right.
in the essence of trying to please my viewers, cheers.
There you go.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the which I know you said you were gonna try to pick up when you hit Kentucky. So that's
Yeah, I'm heading to
Heaven Hill Bottle
Kentucky
and Bond.
beginning of September, and I'm definitely going to pick up probably a case of that stuff.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, for $15, I'm gonna be picking up some. When I was talking to my dad the other day, I picked up, or I didn't pick up, but a lady I work with, she picked up 6 bottles of it. So I'm gonna split those with my dad. I know he really enjoyed the stuff, so he'll appreciate that. Did I say 6? I meant 4. I meant 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I meant 2. I meant 2. Sorry
Yeah,
about that. So you get one.
I might end up at your house instead of Kentucky.
That's okay. Come on. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Yeah. So I'm interested. So like I've kind of become, after having, so you mentioned with the Early Times with the Brown-Forman. I'm a big fan of the 1920 and the Statesman. I love both of those.
Really, you're a fan of the Statesman? I thought the Statesman tasted a bit young to me, but the Pro actually, I have have the
Yeah.
1920 right here. I mean, this is one of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite bottles in the world. I love this stuff.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with it. I mean, for I don't know, 50, 55 bucks is what it is in
Yeah,
my area.
it's
It's a fantastic bourbon.
an absolute steal. It's a fantastic bourbon. It's so complex.
Yep.
There's so many notes to it. Also, uh, the bottled and bond Old Forester is actually it's
Yep.
almost there. It's almost there as well.
Yep.
But this one for the money is still has a way more of a better flavor profile to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, for some reason there was something about the Statesman that I just really enjoyed. I didn't get the youth on it like you did. So I know some people thought it drank kind of hot, but I didn't get any of that. I really enjoyed it.
Just for that, I have to go back now and revisit that one now. So
Maybe it was one of those maybe as it opens up a little bit, maybe it'll change for you or
yeah,
something.
it could be. It could be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so just to let you know what the early times is, it's extremely floral and citrusy to me, but on the nose. But when it drinks, usually bourbons that are floral and maybe citrusy on the nose don't really drink that way. This one does.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's
it's
that's
got
interesting.
a it's got a cherry apricot kind of thing going on, which is good. But on the back end, you do still get those really lovely wood notes. You do get the alcohol. It is 100
Yeah.
proof, so it
Yeah.
definitely will wake you up a bit.
But it sounds like a pretty good one. I mean, for 22 bucks, another one that sounds like, it's a kind of a winner to have around.
Yeah. So let's see, a couple of questions coming in. So Pressman said Stag Junior 50 and Elijah Craig Radical 60 seems to kill bourbons that are 2 or 3 times more. It's true. It's true. I mean, I think the way the bourbon boom is going now, when you look at prices of specific bourbons, especially the craft ones. I mean, there are some really amazing craft bourbons coming out, but they're all priced, about 50, 60 bucks. Some of them 70, 80. Um, so it really can, for bourbons that are like 2 or 3 times more than that. Trying to think of another bottle that I had recently that was priced. So a new bottle that's coming out that's going to be releasing in the beginning of September. Another brown form product is the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon,
Hmm.
which out of all the birthday bourbons I've tried 15, 14, 13, 12. The only one that I liked out of all of that whole lineup was the 14. So the rest of them just weren't very, they were kind of underwhelming to me. And I think for the accolades it gets and the big release parties that it gets,
Yeah.
it didn't really do it for me. So
Yeah. I was kind of in the same boat. Like, I wish I could remember what year. It's probably been a year and a half since I even had any of the birthday bourbon, but I was kind of in the same thing too, for like, I mean, even trying to get it at retail, which was very difficult, and then to try to pay the secondary price for what it was. I mean, there's other bourbons I can go and buy right now that I would take over that. Um,
absolutely.
it's just one of those things where, the
Like this
hype
guy,
take.
like this
You
guy for
got it.
10 bucks.
You got it.
10 bucks.
You got it. I mean, it is like literally. I mean, it deserves to win awards. It's that good.
Yeah,
But yeah, as far as the birthday bourbon goes, one other interesting thing I heard was uh, this year's proof is the highest they've ever released it at. I don't know what that is, but I heard that this year's proof will be the highest proof the birthday bourbon's been released at. So that was interesting.
oh. Yeah, I didn't hear that. I mean, I did read that not they're releasing not as many this year because I think they said in about 2 or 3 of the barrels they had, the Angel share took about 70% of the whiskey, which I thought was insane.
Boy, so is it maybe going to be that old that it's evaporated that much?
Yeah, I think it was they attributed it more to the spots in the warehouse rather than the aging
Oh,
process.
okay.
So the juice that's in there, that's why I'm so curious to try it. I probably
Yeah.
won't be able to get my hands on a bottle, but I'd love to get a sample of it just because of
Yeah.
that the fact that that much got taken, to the angel share. I thought was incredible.
Yeah. And usually for me, like when you when you kind of get into these accelerated aging bourbons, um, usually for me, it's always hot. It's always super hot for me,
Yep.
and I think that comes from that just, this is one of those things you cannot speed this process up. I mean, this is something that takes time, and these ones that seem to be put in, the hot area of a rick house and then released at 6, 7 years old. I mean, they just seem to always be super hot, even when they're not like really, really high proof bourbons. And that's a big turnoff for me.
Yes,
So,
I'm totally with you on that. Let's see. So Whiskey Throttle asked, I have a couple Booker's batches, numbers CO5A12 and CO4J19. Do those numbers mean anything? Whiskey Throttle, those are basically the batches before Booker started giving them names. So
yeah.
those are earlier batches that you have. I can't remember what years those are. I'm sure I could find out, but so basically you just have older versions of Bookers in those bottles. Those are just before they started giving them like front porch batch name,
Yeah.
center cut, and all those other names that we're kind of become attributed to.
I think those two specifically were like really bad, and he should probably send one to me and one to you. Daniel, whatever you do, buddy, don't drink those. Just send them off. We'll take care of it. We'll just drain pour them.
We'll review them for you and keep them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Knob Creek Pressman said Knob Creek 120 is another great pour for 47 in my area. Had great store picks. Pressman, I could not agree more. The Knob Creek 120 is another fantastic buy for about $50. You can find a lot of store picks with that, which I find really interesting. I think the Knob Creek single barrel rye. Actually, I think I have one right here. Yeah, this bottle right here. This one you have some great store picks everywhere. I've tried about 3 different ones of these. I don't know, Scott, if you have, but all the 3 different ones that I've tried, that are different picks, have all tasted completely different, and I find that so interesting.
That's the one thing I've probably noticed a lot about Knob Creek is that they really, really can vary. I mean, I know with them being single barrels, they can vary anyway, but I mean, it sometimes can vary to the point where you don't even know it's like Knob Creek or even like a bean product. Sometimes it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's see. Pressman said he's had some great Russell's Reserve picks for 50. Yeah, I mean, I was chatting with Scott earlier before we went live, and I told him that I had recently done a wild turkey pick, kind of a blind flight challenge just to see which turkey I liked better, and the Russell's Reserve came out on top for me against Rare Breed, Kentucky Spirit, and Wild Turkey 101. I love Russell's Reserve, and I think the depth of flavor in that is so good. It's like a more juiced up Wild Turkey 101, which I love. Whiskey Throttle said, I lost connection. Can you repeat that? Oh, basically we were just saying the bottles you have are older. They're older, and before they started naming them, and you should send each one to me and Scott. So that'd be great.
Yeah, because they're really bad. Those were like anything before they had a name on it was bad, and you should just like get rid of those. We'll drain pour it. We'll have a little sip out of each one.
Yeah.
And we'll just drain pour them.
Terrible juice.
Yeah.
Let's see here. He has, Dwayne Lara says, he also has a CO4J19. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those in Indiana. Whenever I go there, they seem to have a lot of the older Bookers kind of laying around, which is interesting.
Yeah. And some of those older ones, I mean, they're so old that they may still have some of the old pricing on them. They could still be $50. I've seen some of them just being around that once in a while you'll see a super old one from, whatever, several years ago, and it'll be $50,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's kind of your, actually, what I want to ask you is your opinion on the Orphan Barrel bottles. I've had a couple of opportunities to, buy a couple, but I get nervous with bourbons that are aged over 15 years because I feel like it just starts turning into, bitter barrel. So I don't know if you've had any. I think I saw you review a couple of the Rhetoric and.
Yeah. So
what what was kind of your overall impression of that line?
I guess for me, the way I start out with it is the one thing I have a problem with is, and this is probably more like me personally, but like the whole story behind things. Like I'm not really interested in I guess a quote unquote like bullshit story in order to like market your product so you can kind of like amp it up. And for me, when you start saying that, you've got 22, 23, 24-year old like lost barrels. Um, I think a lot of the people out here are more educated now to know that you don't lose anything like that. Those weren't lost barrels. You don't lose that much whiskey or not know about it and then try to like spawn this story, spin this story off onto a bunch of people. So for me, it kind of just started out, and whether or not it's true, I don't even know. I mean, I just find it really hard to believe that nowadays, even if you go back 4 or 5 years ago when they were releasing the 22-year-old,
Yeah,
how do you lose that much whiskey? How do you not know that it's there? And then all of a sudden, you're going to start to barrel this like mystery whiskey, So for me, that's where I kind of struggled, and it maybe left a bad taste in my mouth, so to speak, about the whole thing. Um, the whiskey, it's okay. I mean, it wasn't anything I was super crazy about. Um, but yeah, that's where I kind of stay away from the whole thing just because I wasn't really interested in the whole marketing part of it. So, you know,
yeah, I get that. Pressman actually just said, I was wondering if the Rhetoric 24 was worth 130 in my area. Glad you brought it up.
buy two ECBPs for that, press man.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. I think for that price, it's just not worth the juice. I would actually recommend all the orphan barrels that I've had, the Barter House I think was my favorite, and I think that's about a 19 or 20-year bourbon. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so that one I feel like kind of you still get a good amount of flavor from that, but the Rhetoric was
yeah.
just. I mean, if you enjoy tasting just pure wood and barrel,
Yeah.
then you may like it. That could be
Well,
up to your flavor.
that's the biggest problem. I mean, it's literally impossible to not have something super over oaked when you're in the 20 plus year range. I mean, hey, if that's your thing and you like dry oak bourbon,
Yeah.
I mean, that's perfect. You're an overaged bourbon fan. I mean, that's just the way it is. You've got to like that oak flavor to bourbon,
Yeah, it's
So
absolutely true.
I don't mind it, but like, just going back to like McKenna, it's 10 years old, and to me, it has like a really, really strong, or I shouldn't say strong, but a nice oak presence to it. And if that was 10 more years, I mean, you may as well just like throw a piece of wood in there and hopefully it like liquefies or something because I mean, it's just,
Yeah, and
that to me, it's just over oaked.
I try to explain that to a couple of my buddies that are getting into bourbon and also have been drinking scotch. I try to explain to them how the aging process is so different, for a scotch to a bourbon. So they're always asking, how come a 24-year-old scotch can just get better and delicious, but a 24-year-old bourbon can just be, taste like just pure wood. I'm like,
Yep.
you have to look at, where they're being aged. I mean, you have bourbons that go through so many different types of weather conditions,
Yep.
and in Scotland the weather is primarily pretty dreary. I mean,
Yeah.
so the longer it stays there in that kind of humidity and the rain and the cloudiness that they get, the better it's going to get. Here, if you do it too
Yeah.
long, it's just going to get too much into the barrel.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, generally speaking, a lot or most, I guess I shouldn't even speak on this because I'm not a huge like Scotch expert by any means, but my understanding is that, most or all of the Scotch is all finished in, you know, ex bourbon barrels for the most part. And
Yeah,
and somebody can correct me. Daniel will know. He'll correct us if we're wrong. Dwayne as well. But um and then you, like you said before, you take into consideration the fact that where it is does not have the weather conditions like we do where it's hot and cold. So like you said before, I mean, you could have a 25, 30, 40-year-old Scotch that doesn't even have like remotely the same type of flavor profile that a 25, 30, or 40-year-old bourbon would have.
Yeah,
So
I think I think bourbon really in that sweet spot is between 10 to 15 years. Anywhere in that kind of range, I'm in. Anything
yep,
past that, maybe it could be good depending on the kind of seasons it went through. But generally, I kind of stay
yep,
away from those bourbons.
yep,
I love that 10 to 15 range. Hence the
yep,
Henry McKenna, and then some bourbons age amazing after 4 years with the bonded
yeah,
bourbons. Which takes me to my next one, guys, which
yeah.
is the Colonel Taylor Bottled and Bond Small Batch. One of my
Mm,
favorite bottled and bond bourbons ever.
yeah,
So this is going to be my last dram here. Let's see
yeah,
this one out. Just such an iconic bottle. I love it.
yeah. It's a great looking bottle. I'll take care of this one, then I'll take a little pour of that too.
Awesome. Let's see. Do we have any? So Pressman asked, spotted a Wild Turkey Decades for 160 and a Diamond for 130, but I have yet to spend over $100 on a bottle. Okay. So Wild Turkey, the Decades, and the Diamond. I've had a tasting of the Diamond, and I've had a tasting of the Decades. I will say I did like the Decades better than the Diamond.
Yeah, I agree.
I just thought it was a more balanced bourbon. And I think they're taking about 12, maybe 15-year bourbons and kind of blending them, and kind of really doing a good job of keeping that Wild Turkey flavor profile. But I don't know, Pressman. I think at this point, with the way prices are in the bourbon boom, you probably can get, if you love 101 or even Rare Breed, then I would still stick with that actually, because Decades and even the Diamond Anniversary, it's just older age. It's just the older age bourbon. You're still getting those flavor profiles.
Yeah,
They're amped up a little bit more. You still get some more wood in there. But I would still stick with the Rare Breed for the money, honestly.
yeah. So I just had some of the other day when I was over by my dad's. He's got the not the newest release, which I believe is the one maybe you have. Is the one you have the one that was finished in sherry casks?
Oh yeah, so of course, as I say that, not to spend the money on it.
Yeah,
I So just to show all our viewers here, this is going to be my next review, which I think I'm going to be reviewing. I'm either going to shoot it tomorrow or Friday and have it for the weekend. This is the Master's Keep, brand new to sherry cask, Oloroso sherry cask. I've heard so many good things about it, and I have a buddy of mine here in Ohio he's a bartender, and he's kind of a Wild Turkey nut, and he apparently had it, and he was like blown away by it. So he kind of sold me on it. So that's why I spent the money.
yeah. Well, I'm looking again now. I was hoping my dad would spend the money on it so I could taste his. I don't have to spend $130. But if you're still listening and you're on here, you go buy that. So we have some tasting to do. But
Well, hey, I mean, I
the
can,
one,
if you're interested, if you really want to try, I'll send you a sample. I'm gonna be opening this pretty much on camera for everybody. I've never tried it
yeah,
before. I've heard a lot of insane, crazy tasting notes about it, so I'm pretty excited.
yeah, I've heard some good things. I mean, it really seems like the past two or three releases that they've done, including and again, this is probably kind of funny, but the 17 year that they did too, it was one of those ones that I felt was like, I mean, like spot on. It was really it's older whiskey, but I mean, I think they did a fantastic job with it. I mean, the Decades, this new release, um, I mean, the newest one prior to this, but I mean, they've done a fantastic job with these. I mean, is something worth $150? I don't know. If you've got the money and you want to spend it, then yeah, it's worth it. You
I,
know?
I totally agree with you, Scott. I think Wild Turkey does it in a way that I think I don't know what kind of crazy Harry Potter alchemy they're doing over there. But I feel
Yeah,
like with the stuff that comes in at 17 years, like the Decades, I mean, it was very delicious, I will say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really up to you if you want to spend the money on it, but they have a way, I think, of balancing their flavor profiles,
Hmm.
even when they're aging it more than the 15 years.
Yep.
They just seem to take what they do best and just amplify it, and it's just amazing. So I'm looking forward to trying this. My bartender buddy said it's sherry finished, but the sherry complements the bourbon. It doesn't overpower it. So that's why I bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of those things because I mean, as we probably all know, when you start getting into these finished bourbons, um, I mean, it takes on a whole different profile. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I like a lot of things that are done. Some are a little bit different, but um, speaking of some finished stuff, I got the other day. I've done a review of one of them, and I'm going to be doing a review of the other one. But the from Bardstown Bourbon Company, they've got a collaboration that they did with Copper and Kings, where they take essentially 10-year-old MGP bourbon and finish them in uh, the brandy barrels, and then the other one is the muscat or muscat barrels,
Wow.
and they age it for about 18 months, which is crazy from a finishing standpoint. A lot of times they'll be 30, 60, 90 days, but they've done 18 months. And I'll tell you what, it's maybe one of the best finished line um, bourbons I've ever had. They're fantastic. It's super,
Wow,
super
that sounds
tasty.
really interesting.
So if you go there, go check out that Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Oh, I will. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds amazing. I would love to try that.
yeah.
Um, let's see here. Pressman says I don't have any experience with sherry cask whiskey. Well, I mean, Pressman, I don't know if you've had experience with any kind of Speyside scotches, which have mostly are finished with kind of sherry casks, where the sherry kind of takes over. I feel Scotch a little bit. You do get other flavors, but with bourbon, I feel like sherry, if it's done right, the way they have told me that the Wild Turkey has done it, the sherry will complement the bourbon, not overtake it. So
Yeah.
it does give it another layer of sweetness and fruitiness. The bartender that I talked to that I love, he basically was saying that it's he's like I don't know if you're gonna get this, but when I smell it, it tastes like strawberry jam when you smell it, but when you
Hmm.
taste it, it's got this amazing balance of wood, caramel, and then right on the end you get a little bit of that sherry. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm kind of looking forward to.
Yeah, the one thing I like about finished bourbon, especially ones that are done right, um, are when you start to get a bunch of different like layers of flavor. As you're kind of like sitting there and the finish is starting to kind of develop, and you're starting to get hit with all these different things. That's what I really like about, I'll say bourbon in general. When you start to like taste just different things as after you've kind of drank it and it's sitting there, that's the greatest thing. I love a good long finish.
Yeah.
um Something that you can just kind of, you're just like thinking of stuff, you're like, oh my god, this is crazy how this is developing and all of that. I love that, how it does that at times. So
Yeah, some new bourbons coming out that I'm pretty excited about too. Not only this one that I picked up, the revival, but new Riff bourbon is has hit the market in Kentucky. It's supposed to be coming to Ohio soon. I'm really
yep.
looking forward to that. The birthday bourbon, as I mentioned, I don't know if I'll be able to get my hands on one of those, but not sure I want to spend the money on that as well.
Yeah.
There are so many new things coming out. I have a buddy of mine that's traveling abroad, and he's looking for. I don't know if you heard about the Jack Daniel's bottled in bond that hit the duty free shops
Mhm.
just this August 1st. So I'm not a huge Jack Daniel's fan, but I'm actually really curious to kind of try that. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Try a bottled in bond version
Yeah.
of Jack.
With a lot of the good, like the single barrel jacks and stuff, some of them, I mean, they'll trick you. I mean, they're really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, the one thing I always get from Jack Daniels, like their single barrels or whatever their upper lines are, is I get hit with like this banana note, like right away. I don't know what it is about
Oh my
Jack,
God. Yes. Yeah.
I
It's
always get some kind of
every
banana
every
note.
time I smell any sort of, I have I don't know where it is. Oh, back here. I have the Jack Daniel's single barrel barrel proof, which is, I think, a delicious whiskey. But you're right. As soon as I
Yeah.
smell it, I think trail mix with the banana chips.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's one of those funny things where I can just, I mean, you can just smell it and you're like, I mean, this is Jack Daniel's. This is just what it smells like for me. So
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I guess one last question I had before maybe we wrap up here is,
Yeah.
well, one question: have you kind of gotten into Scotch? And then the second one, which is a little bit unrelated, but
Yeah.
I just kind of want to squeeze this in. Where do you see kind of your channel going in the next? I don't know. Look from a year from now. How do you feel like
Yeah.
How do you want to build your channel? Where do you see it going?
Yeah. So to answer the Scotch thing, that's a big fat no. Uh, I mean, there's a lot of them I had. I mean, somebody sent me some samples the other day, and I don't even know what to expect, to be honest. So somebody actually sent me, actually, um, Chad, on Instagram, he's the whiskey traveler,
Yeah.
and he sent me some Lagavulin 8 year, and I smelled it the other day, and I'm like, I don't know if I could even drink this or not. I mean, it smells
Did you get
like
did you get wet Band Aid?
say that again.
Did you get wet Band Aid from it?
I don't know. I just got dirty earth. That's what I smell. I just I just smell like dirty earth, and it's got to be. And I don't know. Maybe is Lagavulin 8 year like a super peated whiskey or something? I don't or Scotch. I have no idea.
Lagavulin is known for their peat. It's fascinating to me that you would you would start with an Isla Scotch. That is not smart.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it's my rookiness that I have literally no idea where
Yeah.
to even
Yeah,
start. I mean, if
You need to start with like a Macallan or a Glen. I'm sorry, a Glendronach,
yeah,
Glengoyne. Those are the sweeter
yeah,
ones, and even Balvenie. They have some really good scotches that
yeah,
I think are a little bit easier to take in the beginning, especially coming from bourbon.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I just he sent me some other things, and most of it was all bourbon, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna open these up and just kind of give it a whiff. I'm like, I'm smelling all the other ones. He sent me some like chef's collaboration and some Calumet. I'm smelling them, and I open up this Scotch. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell this is. Did somebody just send me like a bottle of dirty earth? Like, I don't even know if I can drink this or not. I'm serious. So, not to offend any Scotch people by any means, but I mean, I'm used to something, you know, on a way sweeter side of things, more oaky, and the Scotch. I mean, so far, I know it just doesn't do it for me. So maybe it has everything to do with where I've started. I mean, I can't start at like, something super peaty or earthy,
yeah,
and
it's definitely a kind of a shock to the palate if you're not
yeah,
used to it. Coming from bourbon, I mean, it's made 51% corn. It's going to be pretty sweet, and then you're
yeah,
basically drinking earth, like you mentioned.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
there are some scotches that I love, and I'm trying to kind of work my way into that flavor profile. I mean, it is
yeah,
difficult for me because I'm so into bourbon, but
yeah,
there are some scotches that I really enjoy. Compass Box does some amazing things that I love in blending, and they have really unique flavor profiles that I haven't found in just regular scotches that I
yeah,
enjoy. So
yeah.
um, I think. As far as actually one question, Whiskey Throttle, opinions on Peerless. Have you ever had the Peerless Rye yet? I have.
I have.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago when we were down there, my dad and I we visited the place, and fantastic people, and
Yeah.
nice tour. On the smaller side in terms of when you're comparing them to the big boys, they're still a bit they're they're a little bit larger than craft, so they're kind of in between. They're like kind of in between craft and the big boys, more craft than they are big boy. But I'll tell you what, it's maybe to date the best 2 year rye I've had,
I
hands down.
I agree. I could not believe that stuff was aged only 2 years. It was
Yeah,
amazing. It's
yeah,
it's supremely. I mean, it was on the sweet side, which I was very
Yep.
surprised. Is that what you got? Did you get kind of a sweeter?
I did, and I'm very like whether this is the case or not, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the rye part of things, when people are using a sweet mash versus a sour mash, to me, I think it makes a difference. Of the sweet mash rye whiskey I've had, it tastes different. Um, and a lot of times it is sweeter. I get more of a sweetness from it.
Yeah,
And for for what they did for I think the one I had was like 107 proof, barrel strength, um, the sweetness and the lack of heat that came from it. It was crazy. I just couldn't believe it. I was amazed.
yeah. Now, in your opinion, do you think a 2-year rye, as good as it was, is it
Yeah.
worth 110 dollars a bottle?
Um, I mean, it's really hard to say that anything's worth that kind of price. I mean, even a really good bourbon at
Yeah,
that price, I mean, that's still expensive. I mean,
I
a hundred
agree.
and some
I
bucks.
agree. Yeah.
I mean, that's expensive. I mean, it's hard to justify when there's other bourbon that are out there for 40, 50, maybe 60 bucks. Um, even on the rye side. But yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, value and what you're willing to pay for things, that's a real tricky thing. But when
I
you get
mean,
into
I
that
mean,
price,
for me, for me, I try to. In the beginning, when I first started, I'll be honest. When I was first getting into bourbon, I was buying everything. I didn't give a crap what the hell I
hmm
was buying. As you kind of start tasting more and getting to learn more, you try to balance that thing between value and also I guess what you enjoy.
yeah,
So for me, the Peerless, well, not only what you enjoy but also uniqueness, because you can
yeah,
buy every bourbon on the market. A lot of them, even especially the younger ones, could taste very similar. But if it's something that tastes unique, I'm willing to buy multiple. That's why I have 4, 5, 6 bottles of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, because
yeah,
even though even though they are the same bottle, there's enough uniqueness there that'll keep me wanting to buy more.
yeah,
So I think it
yeah.
really depends in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, whether if you want to call it what it is, but I mean, Peerless at let's say $100, I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's a unique rye,
Yeah,
and
I think
and it it,
I
it
think
kind of blows you away for what it
yeah.
is.
I think if I found it for 100, I'd probably pick it up. I think it's unique enough. It's a kind of a special rye to me. For
Yeah,
2 years to have that flavor profile, I'd probably get it.
yeah.
Um, so one other question: Angels Envy Rum Cask Rye. For me, for 110, 120 bucks here, nope. Wouldn't spend the money on that.
Yeah.
Um, I actually rather spend the money I'd rather buy for 70 bucks. I can get the Balvenie Scotch that's finished in rum cask, which I think is even better. Um, I mean, I know it's not a bourbon, but it's a Scotch. I know it's not a rye. I'm sorry, but it's a Scotch. But
Yeah.
I think that tastes even way better than the Angel's Envy one. It's just really, really overly sweet. It's thin. There's not really a long finish on it. I would have to kind of say no to that one.
Yeah, and I've never even had it, so I can't even say anything about it at all.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
okay. I mean, it wasn't.
yeah,
I think for you and I, we kind of like those ones that have long finishes. You get different flavors as it goes down, as it opens
yeah,
up. And the Angel's Envy, the only Angel's Envy that I've had that I really, really enjoyed, probably because I like higher proof stuff, was the cask strength. It was pretty good.
yeah. Well, that's the speaking of like high proof, I think for me as I've kind of gotten into it more, the high proof, I always thought of like, well, it's just going to be high proof, meaning it's going to be more burn. Well, over the past couple years, I've really started to understand that, the higher the proof, generally speaking, the more flavor profiles you're going to get, the longer the finish is going to be. So now I really start to see why people enjoy high proof is
Yep.
because, I mean, it comes with extra flavor. There's more flavor. The finishes are longer. So I've really started to gravitate towards higher proof bourbons just because of that. I love the good long finish of a bourbon.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Let's see. What favorite balcones? Oh, um, so the U.S. Texas one single malt was my favorite until I had the baby blue cask strength, which was just delicious. I'm actually not a huge fan of the regular True Blue. I actually have a bottle that I got as a gift. I mean, I like it, but it's really, really sweet. But once you take the True Blue to the cask strength, it was just amazingly delicious. So
Hmm.
that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so I think to finish out here, I guess last question, Scott. What do you see your channel becoming in a year from now?
So for me, I've kind of got into um, over the past few months, I've started reaching out to uh, more distilleries, other people, and just kind of throwing myself out there, saying, "Hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm passionate about. Um, you know, can I do something for you? Are you willing to send me a bottle to do reviews of?" I've really gotten into some of that stuff, and really just tried to kind of like self market myself from a standpoint of just being able to, have a relationship with some other distilleries, try their products, different things I wouldn't even have an opportunity, West Coast, East Coast, wherever it may be. Um, so I really like the idea of just being more involved. That's the one thing I've really enjoyed is just being kind of out there, getting I don't want to say like a reputation, but just having fun with it, and at least people understanding that I enjoy it to the point where I'm going to be honest about your product. And I think people appreciate that. But as far as where the channel is going, I'll continue to still do the normal reviews. I'd love to kind of work with some other distilleries, other companies, anything I can kind of do to you know, help them out, help myself out, whatever it may be. Just be involved in the community as a whole. I mean, I really, really enjoy everything about it, and that's the one thing I like about, everybody else's bourbon. I mean, there's really no bad bourbon. There's just they all taste different. And that's the one thing I really enjoy is getting to understand how something's made, how they do it, how long it's aged, all of that kind of stuff, and understanding, why their bourbon tastes different than anybody else's bourbon. So that really for me is kind of what I hope to kind of continue. Um, and if I can build things a little bit more and come on with you and anybody else, whatever it may be, this is the stuff I really like to do is just the interacting with everybody and being involved in the kind of the whiskey community as a whole. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
thanks
yeah.
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of echo those same sentiments. The whiskey community, bourbon community has been unbelievable. The guys that I talk to on the chat, Scotch Test Dummies, those guys that I've spoken to a good amount that I've helped. Um, I really appreciate everyone kind of helping me out and kind of giving me a good push towards the right direction. I'm really hoping to, I think, for the first, as I keep going, just continue to do great reviews and informative reviews and entertaining reviews and stuff that you guys can really learn from, and hopefully I can really kind of guide you into your when you walk into a liquor store that you're making a good purchase, and then from there hopefully, just like you, Scott, as you mentioned, I do want to do possibly some more uh, kind of kind of live recordings of me, maybe even like what I think is fascinating is like the bourbon hunting part of it. So I think I want to kind of record me like actually going hunting in different places and seeing
Yeah,
what you run into and the challenges, and eventually going to distilleries and talking to the workers, not so much the distillers, but
right.
I want to talk to the guy that's wheeling the barrels into the rick house
Yeah,
and what he knows, because they know where the best barrels are. So
yeah,
I think eventually that's where I want to get to, and I think I'm really excited. But I want to thank you for being so
yeah,
supportive to the channel and
yeah,
helping me out with not only supporting me from the beginning, but also telling people about my channel. And I can't wait to to do more of this with you, and hopefully
yeah.
some others. And I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this is fun. I mean, this is really what it's all about is, you know, having a good time, you know, sharing stuff. I mean, I know we're, you know, hours apart, but I mean, at least being able to do this and have, you know, a nice pour and talk with other people in the chat. I mean, this is really what for me has kept me super interested in the whole like bourbon community is the fact that it becomes a bit of a, you know, a brotherhood, so to speak, and being able to, you know, communicate and chat and see how everybody else is doing. And you know, we'll see a lot of the same you know, names and stuff pop up, and that's the best part of it is that, you know, now you'll start to, you know people by name and who they are and what they like, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the best part of it. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I wish you the best in everything. I mean, so far you've done a fantastic job. Your reviews are spot on. I mean, it's, hey, you're a million miles ahead of where the hell I was when I first started out. I mean, mine was stuck at a or a dining room table trying to like stutter my way through whatever the hell it was I was doing. So yeah, keep doing your thing. You're doing an awesome job already.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So
Yeah,
I guess before we sign off, like I always say, and Scott, you know, this is to you too. It is not the it's always not about the whiskey, but it's the people you share it with. So
you got it.
cheers, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Sounds good. Cheers. Take
Cheers.
care. Thanks, Jason.